As we move forward, tonight's topic is on education. These are some of the goals that we want to walk away from tonight, at least trying to achieve. Explore ways to improve our public school system, have an awareness of the current investment in Hawaii's public school education, and how did we get to the place of cutting instructional days was one of the questions that I believe a lot of people were asking. And then knowledge of Hawaii's public charter school option as an option. Per pupil funding, one of the things that I wanted to share with you tonight, and it's a little dark on the bottom, but as you can see on the left-hand side of the line bar graph, you have 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. It's in code at the bottom, but when we look at education funding, it's broken down into a lot of different categories. But if you were to take a look at the highest line, which is, it says with F, and F stands for fringe benefits, DS stands for debt service, and CIP stands for our capital improvement money that goes into public education. If you were to add all of that up, we would be averaging approximately a little under 16,000 per child. But there has been all kinds of different numbers that have been given, throughout the education debate. And so I wanted to make sure that you saw these different numbers. If you were to take out fringe benefits and debt service is usually what is paid when we've tried to when we've built buildings, and you have to pay on that debt service, that's included in that. And fringe benefits are benefits like health insurance and that kind of stuff that go along with salaries that aren't always counted in the per pupil amount. So if you take a look at that, without fringe, debt service, and CIP, or capital improvement money, we are looking at a total of federal and state dollars of a little under $10,000 per child. Okay, a little under $10,000 per child. But if you put in all of the rest, this is for 2009 and 2010, one of the really difficult things that we have doing when we pull information, it's very difficult to get numbers and figure out how much we're spending in education. You would think it was a straight up answer, but sometimes it's very difficult to get our hands on information like that. And then if you are aware of the weighted student formula, weighted student formula was the Reinventing Education Act. It's called Act 51. We did it in 2004. And in 2004, we decided that we wanted to get the money down to the school level, and that was the whole push, is we wanted to get money down to the school level. And as you can see, there's a comparison now that I took from Senator Sakamoto's information from his website, as well as took a look at some other information. And what we added is the money that actually gets to be decided on at the school level is about $4,000 of the almost $10,000 of all of that money. That's without fringes and debt service and CIP. And so one of the things that I'd like to point out to you today is the Reinventing Education Act of 2004 was supposed to get more of this other money that is not decided upon back to at the school level to be decided upon. I hope that throughout the discussion that becomes a little bit clearer for you. But if you're on, how many of you are SCC members? School Community Council members? So what you're seeing in front of you for the most part is about 42% of what gets spent on your schools. Okay, so that's what we mean when we're trying to say that we want to make sure that you're aware of all the money that gets spent. Okay, and then if you look at the weighted student formula average, which is that fifth line, and then the sixth line is approximately how much public charter schools get overall with debt service, not fringes, but debt service and CIP. And some of that, actually, let me restate that. They don't get CIP and debt service. So that's why that number doesn't go up more. But it's about $6,000 this year.
I heard all kind of questions about charter schools. Is it private schools? Do you charge tuition? I think, how many of you have a child that goes to a charter school? One, okay, so I'm gonna assume you don't know much about charter schools, okay? So I wanna kind of fix that up front. Charter schools are public schools of choice, okay? And even though you don't maybe have a child in a charter school, you should really care about how they're doing, and I'd like to tell you why. Charter schools in Hawaii are amplifying or escalating three primary things in our overall public education system. The first is community, and Representative talked about this several times. Charter schools can only exist in a community where the parents and teachers and leadership and community members want to take on the responsibility of educating their kids. That's the only way a charter school can start, is a community has to come together of teachers, of parents, and say, we're willing to take on that burden. And I think that's what we want more of in our public education system. That's what SCCs are all about. It's about empowering community members, empowering teaching staff. Second thing charter schools do is that they're amplifying choice, okay? If you think about it this way, you have no choice as to what public school you go to. You go to the district school. If a charter school opens in your district, you now all of a sudden have a choice. And one of the most uncomfortable things about charter schools is that it creates that competition, right? And we're not used to competition in public education. But one of the things we're learning is that wherever a charter school opens in a community, both the charter school and the public school go up. Performance goes up. We don't have to be rocket scientists to know why that is. It's because now we as adults have to compete for those kids and families. We have to say, our school can deliver this to you and your child. And I think that's a healthy thing for us to do, have this kind of healthy debate. The other thing about choice is it allows families and kids to go to the public school that best meets their needs. And like the Finnegans had mentioned, their child wanted to have hands-on activity and hands-on learning, so they were able to find a school that gave them that option. The last thing charter schools are doing is that they're bringing quality to public education, and this is really important to me, and it gets sensitive in terms of constructive criticism and all those things, right? If you have a charter school, it can only survive if parents choose to go and enroll there. We only get money for the kids that are in our school, okay? So to us, that's the primary measure of quality, is that parents and kids would choose to entrust you with their most precious, valuable asset. That's the number one measure of quality. Number two, everyone should know that public charter schools have to meet every single standard that other traditional schools have to meet. We take the same test. Our scores are published online. You can see our results. So we're held to that same standard of quality. But lastly, and it goes to this community and choice point, it's to me the highest measure of quality. And I was in this, got invited to participate in this national conversation about improving public education. And this elderly Hispanic man stood up, and he told this story about when he sees his grandkids, he asks them, oh, how's school going? What are you learning? And then he says, does your teacher love you? And the folks in the room kind of got quiet, right? Like, whoa, this guy's introducing this kind of a weird concept. Is that the measure of quality now? Love? And I can see a lot of folks in this room nodding their heads. But I told you earlier, parent first, right? I want my kids to be loved at their school. And I think that all the things charter schools bring, empowering community, getting parents involved, creating competition, it helps bring that getting down to loving our kids message. And I think that having charter schools in Hawaii have put pressure in all of these areas, and that's something we should be celebrating.